What's going on, everybody? Dominic Caminata here, another beautiful Warrior Wisdom Walk. I'd like to thank you for joining me. I got someone else joining me today, the one and only Coco Chanel. Yes, her name actually is Coco Chanel. My wife named her. She is our teacup golden doodle at the Caminata homestead, and she's going to be joining us in today's Warrior Wisdom Walk because Coco Chanel told me that she loves story time. She loves storytelling. And that is actually going to be the headline of today's Warrior Wisdom Walk, is the power of storytelling and why this is one of the most important weapons of influence that exist in the art of selling. So as you probably have noticed, it's harder than ever to hold a listener's attention for long periods of time. People are more distracted than ever. They have shorter attention spans. Their mind's rushing in 100 different directions at any given time. So as a sales professional, you really got to be in your A game if you want to be able to have people sit there long enough to build an effective relationship, to essentially build a foundation of trust, to build enough value in the product or service that you're there to sell. So you got to figure out, how can I better hold the listener's attention so I can have enough time to be able to close this sale and make that sale the natural conclusion, okay? Front load the process. Well, we teach a lot of different strategies at Grosso University and how to do that. We talk about the importance of asking questions. We could do a whole training on that. Injecting humor, making it fun and entertaining, keeping the prospects physically and mentally involved throughout the sales process. These are all strategies that we train on. But today's Warrior Wisdom Talk, I just want to focus on storytelling and explain why this is such a powerful sales strategy, and it's something you definitely got to work on and fine tune, something you want to take responsibility for. So now, human beings make all their decisions on emotion. That may not be news to you, but I don't think people realize just how important this information is and how much of that decision is based on emotion. So when I'm doing large sales trainings, I'll often ask large groups of sales warriors, what percentage of their decision to buy from you is based on emotion? And I'll get all kinds of different answers. Some people will say 70%, some 80, some 90, some 95. So the answer is simple. It's 100% of that prospect's decision to buy from you is based on emotion. As a matter of fact, it's been scientifically proven that when people have an impaired limbic region of their brain, the emotional hub of their brain is disabled or impaired, they actually lack the capacity to make decisions on anything. And one thing I want you to consider is the emotional center of your mind, the limbic region, that is responsible for 100% of their decision making, does not comprehend language, doesn't actually understand or translate words. It's all based on feeling, or that transference of energy in motion, which we call emotion. This is why it's so important how you carry yourself in the home, the energy that you bring, the passion and belief that you have in your product or service, and as we'll talk about, your ability to hold listeners' attention through the art of storytelling. Now, why is storytelling relevant when it comes to selling any emotion? When people allow themselves to drift off into story time, I mean, think back to when you were a little kid, right? So you love stories when you're a kid, and we know throughout human history, stories is how traditions and information has been spread down from generation to generation. When you're a little kid, you love story time. Of course, you used to love going to the movies, which is story time. And when you're an adult, it's no different. People actually love allowing their imagination, their mind drift off into story time. And it has a profound impact on your emotions and your ability to influence people. So the situation that I often share in my trainings is, those of you watching this Warrior Wisdom Walk, have you ever watched a Pixar movie and at the end of it, for one reason or the other, you're brought to tears? So you felt a real emotion, real sadness, and real tears started to fall from your face. Well, if you want to really think about that, this is a fake animated film. It's a fictional character, all fake, but yet the emotion that you felt was real and genuine, wasn't it? This is why we say, your mind can't tell the difference between real experience, imagined thought, or what you see on the screen. But the reason why that happens is because you allowed your mind to drift off into story time. The limbic area of your mind was ignited like the 4th of July, which is precisely what happens when people are being told stories. It targets the emotional center of their brain directly. So if you know that human beings make decisions on emotion, And one of the most powerful ways to target the emotional center of their mind is through storytelling. Do you think that there is a good reason or motivation for you as a sales warrior to master the art of storytelling? Now, of course, you've heard in sales that selling is not telling. Anything you say in the house is an opinion, right? Anything the customer says, though, is a fact, and it becomes part of their belief system. Well, I know that selling is not telling, but Dominic, I still need to tell them things. I still need to say something intelligent to influence them, right? Well, this is where storytelling comes in. The way Rick Grosso always framed it is, storytelling is a profound way you can tell somebody something without actually telling them. It's not your opinion. You're not trying to force them one way or the other. All you're doing is sharing a story, and the homeowner needs to figure out what the message is embedded in the moral of the story, okay? So it's very, very powerful. It's so profound, but you got to figure out a way throughout the entire sales encounter, instead of just flapping your jaw and explaining things to your prospects matter of fact, you got to figure out a way to reframe it in the form of a story and a hypothetical situation. Hypotheticals, analogies, and storytelling is such a powerful weapon of influence. It cannot be overestimated. And when you talk about how human beings make decisions, they always make decisions hypothetically before they ever make them in reality. Another thing I wanted you to think about, and then I'll give you some examples of what I mean here, is human beings do not think in words, they think in pictures. Right? So the joke that Rick Grosso used to share in his trainings is, imagine you're out golfing with your friends, right? And you got a par 3 over water. Okay, so picture this scene for a moment. You've got a par 3 over water, and you put your ball on the tee, or maybe you tee it up off the ground, either way, and you get ready to swing the ball, and in your mind you're like, don't hit it in the water, don't hit it in the water, don't hit it in the water. If I'm saying don't hit it in the water, what are you all picturing right now? Splash, right? So life is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and a lot of times that's what ends up happening. So Rick Grosso always said, instead of saying don't hit it in the water, what I say is hit it on the green, hit it on the green, hit it on the green. But I better use an old ball just to be safe, okay? So the whole point of that exercise is, whether you're saying hit it on the green, or you're saying don't hit it in the water, you're picturing exactly what you're describing, right? Your mind thinks in pictures, not words. So let me give you an actually real concrete example of the difference of what I'm talking about, so you can get a sense for how powerful this can be. So now, those of you watching this, you're probably in the home improvement industry, and hopefully you're a licensed contractor, and maybe as part of your sales process, you differentiate or build value in the fact that the prospects or the homeowners want to hire a licensed contractor to make sure that they don't get burned in the end, and they're not liable for anything that could and would go wrong, right? So let's say that I'm just selling the value of being a licensed contractor to my prospects. So the first way here is the way an amateur salesperson would describe that. So John and Mary, I just want to bring something to your attention. When you do any work on your home, you definitely want to make sure the contractor you hire is properly licensed, because a lot of homeowners don't know, if the contractor's not licensed, you personally could be held liable for anything that could and would go wrong. And if anything does go wrong, your warranty will be null and void. They're not responsible for doing any service or repairs on their product. There's no warranty from day one. So that's what an amateur salesperson would do, okay? Now, how can I do the same thing and frame it in the form of a story? So here's an example of the difference, okay? So John and Mary, let me ask you a question. Has any contractor ever explained to you why it's vital that you hire a licensed contractor anytime you do work on your home? Has anyone ever addressed this to you? So before I get into it, why do you personally feel that it would be absolutely essential that you hire a real licensed contractor before you proceed on this project? So of course, getting them talking. So you're absolutely right. And I want to share a personal story that happened. This is actually a customer I met with in Greenleaf, Wisconsin. And they called us out because they wanted to remodel their bathroom. And when I went out to their house, the bathroom was already gutted down to the studs, and the house was in shambles. And the homeowners just had this look of disappointment on their face. And I got to the house, I get in the bathroom, take a look, I'm like, oh my God, what happened? So they shared this horrific story where they actually had 3 companies come out to give them prices on the bath. And admittedly, they picked the lowest bid, which again, if you throw a grenade in your bathroom and blow it up to smithereens, You can imagine it's not hard to drop 25, 30 grand on a full bathroom remodel without blinking, right? So these homeowners invested about $30,000 in this bathroom renovation. And this contractor, as it turns out, was cash and carry. Now, if you're a cash and carry remodeler, how much do contractors typically demand as a down payment? 50%. So this contractor, like most, took 50% of the money and proceeded with step one of any bath renovation, which is what? Demolition, okay? Demolition is step one. So contractor comes in, starts demolishing the bathroom, and lo and behold, he runs into mold behind the shower walls. Now, if you ever watch HGTV or you do any research on this stuff, take a wild guess. What percentage of showers that get torn out have mold behind there? Only all of them, right? So it's not an uncommon thing, and that's something a contractor should be expecting before they even start tearing it apart. But this contractor stopped the project and warned the homeowners that they had to go out and hire a mold remediation company to sanitize the space and get rid of the mold before they could proceed. And that was going to cost another $8,000. So now their bid went from 30 grand to 38,000, which turned that contractor from the cheapest to the most expensive. And you got to be careful, because that's how a lot of contractors work, where they'll get your business with a low bid up front, and then they'll nickel and dime you from the entire length of the project to the end of time, right? And if you watch HGTV again, you'll see that all the time on these shows, where they'll start the project, and what do they do to the bid? They add to the bid, they add to the bid over and over. And before you know it, the project's twice as much as it was in the beginning. So now, if you're the homeowner in that situation, you had an agreement with that contractor for 30 grand to get the whole bathroom done, and immediately day one, he hits you with another $8,000 upcharge. What would you say? I'm not paying it. We had an agreement. So that's what the customer said. Like, we can't pay you $8,000 more. We had a deal. You said it included everything. So now the contractor said, if you're not going to pay the money, I'm leaving. And the homeowner said, you can't leave. And the contractor's like, watch me. So the contractor ups and leaves, stops the project, bails. And now, so far, the homeowners had paid $15,000. And so far, what did they accomplish? They had some stranger they don't know come in and destroy their house, okay, and leave. Now, of course, if you're a homeowner in that shoes, what are you going to do? You're going to go after the homeowner, or are you going to go after the contractor and try to sue them for damages, right? Try to get your money back. So they tried to call the contractor, disconnect the phone numbers. They talked to every lawyer and attorney they could find. And what they came up with is this is an unlicensed contractor. It was not a real place of business, a typical chuck in a truck. And they had zero legal recourse as a result. So obviously hindsight's 2020. But these homeowners were devastated. Unfortunately, I had to be the bearer of bad news that they essentially had to start over and reinvest all the money to get it done right the first time with a professional, right? So obviously, John and Mary, hindsight is 2020, and one thing you can't put a price on is peace of mind. But knowing what you now know, would you ever tolerate an unlicensed contractor coming in and tearing your house apart, knowing that you would be held liable for anything that would go wrong? Or to be worth it to you and invest a little bit more for a professional like us and get it done right the first time? So can you see why having a license to get this work done is absolutely vital? So a big red flag, John and Mary, is if you have a company asking you to pull your own permit, you should run for the hills, because that's the first indication that they're not properly licensed, and you need to take your business elsewhere. So knowing that, can you appreciate why our business has been growing like a rabbit farm on a hormone diet? Okay, so it's just an example. Okay, so instead of just telling a matter of fact that we're a licensed contractor and that's something the homeowner should look for, I want to figure out a way to tell a story to target the emotional center of their mind and really knock that point out of the park, right? That's the ultimate way to influence them, because they can feel that situation. They can feel the pain and trauma, the devastation those homeowners went through, taking the lowest bid and having it completely backfire because they hired an unlicensed contractor from off the street. So of course, we know in sales, there's two big motivators that we want to leverage. That's fear of loss and hope of gain. So fear of loss is twice as powerful as hope of gain, but we do want to leverage both. So the fear of making the wrong decision, hiring the wrong contractor is powerful. And this is why we call step 5 of our sales process the company story, because there's a lot of storytelling involved. So I just want to encourage all your salespeople, get together as a mastermind group, break your sales process apart, and figure out a way you can tell more stories. The best salespeople are the best at storytelling, I promise you. If you ride with them in the house, they're absolutely experts at it, whether it's sharing personal stories, third-party stories, stories about other products or brands. They are just dialed in on their ability to tell stories because they know that is one of the most powerful ways to hold a listener's attention and key to their emotions, which is the number one most important element of making any decision for your prospects. So you know they buy an emotion, and now you know storytelling is the ultimate way to sell an emotion. So master storytelling, and I promise you, you too will be a top performer in your chosen profession. So I'd like to thank you for joining me on this Warrior Wisdom Walk. If you enjoyed this content, again, feel free to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Share this content with a friend. I really appreciate your time. I'm grateful for you. Thanks for joining me in Coco Chanel. And as always, at Grosso University, yes, you are a closer.